Alright, y'all, what's up? So, I just filmed for 30 minutes and QuickTime screen recording did not save. It did not save. The other day I hung out with Jake and Connor. I will link them in the description. They want to make a video on comparing the XT3 to the GFX 100 for video. While they were doing that, I stole their Canon EOS Rs and I did a photo test between the Canon EOS R, the Fujifilm XT3, GFX 50R, and the 100. Now that Canon and these other camera brands are finally doing their mirrorless cameras and they're starting to play catch up, I've been a little bit intrigued on looking what the Canon EOS R files look like. I thought maybe they would be closer to the GFX system, but now that I've done all my test comparisons, I realized that they're not that much better than the XT3 files. They're actually pretty similar to the XT3 files. Now, when you watch these comparisons of when people are comparing the XT3 files to the Canon files, they're always doing it in Lightroom, and it makes me cringe because everyone knows that you cannot use X-Trans files in Lightroom. Lightroom keeps coming out with these gimmicky things to try to fix the files instead of just rebuilding the software to be able to use it. You'll see it when they're properly compared in Capture One, you're gonna see how freaking amazing the XT3 files are. So let's just jump in. Off the bat, everything's set to Capture One's film standard, so everything's equaled. This is Capture One doing their magic to make everything the same kind of color balance. Some of the settings aren't exactly the same, but they're all pretty similar. You see the Canon file set ISO was 500, the other cameras are 640, but the important thing is the aperture is set all to the same. What aperture does between different sensor sizes is more of the bokeh effect. So you can see the difference between a crop sensor, a full frame sensor, and a medium format, and what the bokeh does at the same aperture. So again, this is the Canon EOS R right here, and you can see it doesn't look too bad, right? Punch in, wait for it to load, looks pretty good. Now let's go and compare it with the XT3 file. The XT3 file looks pretty much just as sharp as the Canon EOS R file. Again, every other comparison I've seen has been in Lightroom, and people are just like, oh, the crop sensor, blah blah blah. Look at this. It looks almost exactly the same. Now, the Canon EOS R file does look cleaner than the crop sensor. Again, the XT3 set at 640, the Canon set at 500, and I balanced the exposures out so they equal out. And so, yes, crop sensor does have a little bit more noise and there's not as much clarity, but you can see these Fuji files, they're making magic with these crop sensors. Look at this. So the Canon camera was on the 24-70 f4, and then this is the 56-1.2 on the Fuji XT3. But again, everything's set at f4. But you can see the XT3 file is actually sharper. It's actually sharper. Yeah, there's more noise in it, but it's actually sharper. Let's just, let's take that in. So now let's compare the Canon EOS R to the GFX 100. You see the Canon EOS R is punched to 100, the Fujifilm GFX 100 is at 50%. Look at this. The medium format is a whole next level. Of course, it's a $10,000 camera, but you'll see that the GFX 50R file looks super similar to the 100. It's just that the 100 has an extra punch of sharpness in it, but it's not a huge difference really. But just look at the dynamic range, the skin tones, the clarity. It's just, again, the Canon EOS R file and the XT3 crop sensor files look way more closer than the Canon EOS R and the GFX. So again, just take this, just take it in, guys. Look at this, look at it, just take it in. So now let's go into our next files. So the 56mm 1.2 on the Fuji XT3 is almost like a 80mm, and then Canon set to 70mm. So there's the XT3 is a little more punched in. But yeah, you can see again, these are set to the Capture One's film standard, so the colors equaled out. You can see the XT3 file actually still looks a little bit more sharper. Let's go look at our sharpening settings just in case. So you see the Canon file, here's the sharpening settings, and then here's the Fuji file, same sharpening settings. So nothing's different on that front. Let's punch into 200% on both. So again, to me, they're pretty freaking close to each other. Again, the XT3 file is actually looking a little bit better to me. I already know I'm going to get comments in here saying blah, 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 blah. But again, from my test, you guys have seen it right here, XT3 file looks better than me. And you can see the XT3 files, the contrast is still soft on here, so you're still getting a little more shadow information. I mean, of course, we go into the Canon. Let's just go and push the shadows up on both of these files just to see what it does. Okay, so this is showing a little bit more of a thing here. So again, the ISOs are the same exact. The shutter speed was at 1000 on the XT3 and 500, so I did have to push the exposure a little bit. So I'm presenting a tiny bit more noise in the XT3 by pushing the exposure, but you can still see how much more noise that the crop sensor has. So when it comes to that factor, yeah, the full frame does have more clarity, but again, the XT3 still looks sharper. So it's a give and take. Alright guys, now let's switch over to the Fujifilm GFX 50R. So as you can see, this is with both cameras punched into 100%. This, come on guys, full frame cannot touch. Look at this. So the crop sensor XT3 and the Canon EOS R full frame were pretty close. Yeah, the XT3 had a little bit more noise because I was pushing the exposure, but either way, if I wasn't pushing the exposure, there'd still be a decent amount of noise compared to the Canon EOS R. But now compared to the GFX 50R, this is crazy. Let's punch the Canon EOS R to 200 so the focal lengths look kind of the same. Look at this, guys. Full frame cannot touch medium format. You have people hating on the GFX system saying that, oh, it's crop medium format, it's not full frame medium format. Get out of here with that. Get out of here. I don't want to hear that. Look at this. This is a crazy freaking difference. Let's punch into 200 on the GFX 50R. So now both are punched into 200%. Guys, look at this. Again, the GFX 50R, you get it for, I think it's going for like 5,500 right now. Yeah. The focusing system on the Canon EOS R is pretty freaking killer. That's one thing that the GFX 50R cannot touch the focusing system on it. Alright guys, so I did have the Canon EOS R shadows pushed up still. I forgot to reset that, but let's just push them both up now. So the Canon EOS R shadows are pushed 100%. And the GFX 50Rs is pushed 100%. Now, when you push the GFX 50Rs to 100, it goes a little bit brighter because, again, there's more dynamic range in that medium format sensor. It looks like the shadows are actually still pretty clean on the Canon EOS R. So props to the Canon EOS R for the noise control. But you can still see there's way more clarity in this GFX. Way more clarity. Now, let's compare the Canon EOS R to the 100, the GFX 100. Look at this, y'all. Alright, let's go to 100%. So this is the Canon EOS R 100% and the GFX 100 100%. So this is where 100 megapixels comes in, just in that crop factor. But yeah, let's push the shadows up on this 100, and you can see there's a lot more detail you can bring out in there. And then just if you guys are curious, let's do the 50R versus the 100. Let's push them both to 100%. Okay, so the 100's on the left and the 50's on the right. So you can see the files do look pretty similar. It's just that the 100 does have, again, 100 megapixels. So you are going to have a little more detail that pops through. Let's equal out these shadows in here real quick. So yeah, again, the files don't look all that different. The white balances are a little bit different on them right now, I think. Yeah, they're a little bit different on them. So, but yeah, you can see there's actually not a huge difference. I mean, the 100's going to be better if you are doing, again, commercial work, or if you want the focusing system off the 100, because it does focus a lot better than the GFX. You can do a lot more with the 100. This is going to be our last photo, I believe, and this is the Canon EOS R on the left and the XT3 on the right. The 24-70 closest focus distance was a little bit closer than the 56, so I'm a little more backed up. And so yeah, this was shot f4 on both cameras, and you can see the XT3 file looks way sharper. I think this comes down more to the lens. The 56-1.2 is a really good lens, especially when you stop it down to f4 or f2.8 to f4. And on the full frame, again, I feel like this shot's a little bit cheating. But besides clarity, I mean, even, I don't know. Again, this is just to show that people will just crap on the crop sensors, and especially the Fuji sensors, saying that they can't hold up versus full frame. But look at this, guys. Like, it is holding up. It's holding up. But the other important bit I want to show you guys was, let's go to 50%. This green area, this is some, like, nasty, like, pond water. And it looked green like this in person. Now, I didn't get that much pond water in here, but you can see there's a little sliver here. And you can see that the Canon files aren't really picking up that green as good as the XT3 is. I like the XT3 color and dynamic range, like the contrast that it gives you, a lot more than the Canon EOS R files, which I was kind of shocked about. So now we're comparing the Canon EOS R on the left to the GFX 50R on the right, and you can see you see where that medium format comes to play. So now this is the GFX 100 over here, and you can just see it's like insane. The color, the dynamic range is just a whole step above full frame, the Canon system. Now let's compare the 50R to the XT3. Let's just check this out. So on the left, we have the GFX 50R and the XT3 on the right. As you guys can see, the XT3 actually is kind of holding up better than the Canon was, especially because the color of the sensor is kind of doing a lot better, I would say. So the thing with X-Trans sensors is they pick up the double amount of greens that regular CMOS sensors do, and so I think maybe that's why Fuji has better skin tones. I don't know what the deal is with that, but as you can see, I like the way the XT3 looks a lot more over the Canon file. The Canon's just kind of lacking. So here's the thing, a lot of people like to compare the Fuji X series cameras to other full frame cameras in Lightroom. It's kind of common knowledge now that the X-Trans files do not do well in Lightroom. With most of Adobe products, I don't mind Adobe products. I mean, I use Photoshop for almost everything. Again, when people are comparing the XT3 files to these full frame files, it doesn't look nearly as good. So you guys can see, I'm just gonna run through this real quick because it's not even like, I don't know, like to me it's kind of a joke. Now I went in and to the Fuji file because the Canon profiles contrast is super heavy and it's super saturated. So the XT3 files had to bump up the vibrancy and lower the black levels a little bit. And so you can see right here, the blue is going to be a little more pop because, again, I raised the vibrancy on the Fuji file. But, I mean, the color to me, I still like the Fuji colors a lot more. And, again, this is Lightroom. This is the XT3 on the right, Canon EOS R on the left. You can see the Canon file looks a lot better in Lightroom. But from what we just saw, when it's in Capture One, the XT3 files look just as good as the Canon EOS R files, unless you're trying to recover heavy shadows and stuff. With the crop sensor, you're going to get a little bit more noise. But in Capture One, it has really good noise reduction now. On the Capture 120 now, the noise reduction is like 1,000 times better than what it's ever been. But now you can see when I bring up a Fuji GFX file on the right, the GFX sensors are regular Bayer sensors. I think that's what they're called. And so you can use them in Lightroom and they're not going to fall apart and you're going to be able to bring that sharpness in still. But you can see the Canon full frame file it doesn't compare at all. Like the medium format sensor is just next level. But yeah, guys, so again, I just really want to compare these Fuji files to the Canon files. You see a lot of people making the comparisons, but in Lightroom, and it's just the XT3 files do not hold up in Lightroom at all. So now you guys can see why I shoot with Fujifilm. One, to me, the color's better. It gives you more dynamic range to play with. But when I edit, I don't use the Fujifilm simulations anymore. I use the Capture One film standard just because it kind of evens everything out to be kind of similar to each other. But yeah, I just wanted to throw my little test results out there. I'm going to be sticking with Fujifilm for a long time, especially with the medium format. I'm really dying to see when they're going to put the whole GFX 100 system into a 50R kind of sensor body, or 50S even too. When they do that, it's going to be like game over. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate on this because there's a lot of hardcore Canon users and a lot of hardcore Fuji users. So yeah, I don't know.